My guest today is the ever so lovely and fabulous Lucy Brand. Lucy is founder of the Sensual Supper Club and Mystic Ministry, as well as the co-founder of the Circle of Light movement. Lucy supports women visionaries and leaders to become empowered, wealthy, turned on manifestors who create huge positive change in the world. Lucy is a mystic, an energy worker, and a speaker, and uses a combination of spiritual insights, healing practices, EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, also known as tapping, and coaching techniques to build bespoke, layered, powerful manifesting packages for her clients. Today, Lucy and I will be talking about how to harness your sexual energy to heal and manifest your dream life and business to the next level and make your big vision your reality. Welcome to Light Conversations, Lucy. I'm so
Thank you so much
excited.
for having me. I'm so excited to be here, honestly. Thank you so much for having me. I just think your energy is infectious and beautiful. So it's a true honor to be here and talking about my favorite topics.
Likewise. Oh my goodness. I know this is going to be such an incredible conversation. Such a brilliant topic. So yeah, definitely not covered this one before. So
not many people have, to be fair. But I just hope that our conversation will lead to some transformation for the people watching it as well, because sometimes we'll just share something and it will inspire someone or just transform a part of them which perhaps they've never really spoken about before for whatever reason.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I hope so too. Before we dive into the sexual energy and our wombs and yoni, I have to ask you, how did you go from digital publishing into, empowering women through sexual energy healing? And this, it's a subject that I know can be cloaked in shame and stigma.
Yeah, so it was actually a combination of things. So my background was in publishing when I was in London, and then when I moved to Brighton, I worked in digital marketing, and then I left that world to set up on my own, set up my own business, and I thought I'd do what I know, digital marketing. Yeah. But I work with women to empower them around that, because I'm going back, I don't know, maybe 6 years. So there's a lot of women entrepreneurs that were coming out, but websites, SEO, tech, like marketing, social media, newsletters eluded them a bit. But when I was doing all this training, I was realizing it's never about the marketing plan. It's about confidence, it's about mindset, and it's about you loving yourself, really. So then I kind of went away and started to retrain in energy work to kind of complement that. Right. But then after that, I moved into, I experienced a traumatic burglary in my 20s where I was sexually assaulted, and it really impacted all of my life, like every part of my life. And it was one evening, I was with my husband. I was a few years into our marriage, and I used to suffer a lot with rage and anger because I hadn't dealt with it. I'd just put it in a box. I'm not going to deal with that. Yeah. And then one night something had happened, because I used to be triggered by the weirdest of things. Like if you left the window unlocked, or understandably now, but I would overreact, and something had happened and I was overreacting, and I was shouting, and I was and my husband just said to me, "Lucy, I think it's time you see someone." And because I was defensive, I was angry, I was like, "Well, I think you should see someone."
Yeah.
He said, "Okay, I will." And I was like, shit. No, that wasn't the answer I was looking for, because that means I actually have to go and see them.
Wow. Yeah.
So that was kind of the start of my healing journey. And he had a friend at work whose partner specialized in EFT, which you mentioned earlier, emotional freedom technique, and tapping, which works on your mindset, but also works on releasing trauma from your body and your energy. So I had that for several years, and that's what got me into the energy side of things. And then I trained in shamanic practices. And then I just kind of fused it all together, and owning my history as well. Like I mentioned before, I come from a long line of witches, but I wouldn't talk about that before. I mean, I used to speak with fairies all the time, and you know, guides and stuff like that. But it was very much in the closet. And then I feel the last few years I've just really stepped up and just owned being a mystic, like owned, you know, being a bit woo. And yeah, and then with the intimacy side, about 3 years into my marriage, all of a sudden intimacy was a problem. Like it was like my body just shut down and was like, no. So we've gone from having amazing sex to nothing. And I felt very embarrassed. I felt very ashamed. I didn't know where to go. I didn't talk to anyone about it. I didn't even talk to my husband about it. So it was kind of an elephant in the room, which was difficult because it's my best friend. So what I did was I just watched loads and loads of YouTube videos to make me feel, YouTube. Make me feel less alone, to make me realize that there's not something wrong with me, because that's what I thought, there's something wrong with me. It's not something that I was going to go and talk to a doctor. I didn't even really know of the concept of a sexual therapist or anything. It wasn't on my radar. So yeah, and then working through that, I mean, it's not really work, but like moving through that, for myself, like I had to do a lot of work on myself and with myself to get my body to trust me, because I think it was the burglary, I hadn't dealt with it fully, so my body was still remembering. And then introducing my husband again into it, then us working together, so my body felt safe again being with a man. So put it all together, and that's what I do now.
Amazing. I mean, wow, that is incredible. I mean, you know, that awful burglary that happened to you, and that situation that you were in. It's interesting how a few years later, it's like the body suddenly, you know, it's all fine. You kind of put it away, but then the body recognizes, nope, gonna shut down, and you're like, what's going on here? And it was interesting that when you mentioned that you were on YouTube, you know, watching all this stuff, because there was no sexual energy therapist or person to sort of talk to about. So I guess, did you realize at that point, go, well, there's no one to talk to here. How can I, you know, there's, you know, many people have trauma or have, you know, go into these situations or have been in these situations. Is that what kind of gave you the, I guess, spurred you on to kind of maybe look into this field in a bit more depth? Yeah,
I think it was because when I retrained in more energy work and shamanic practices and things like that, and my first clients that I was attracting were women, because you always attract what you know, or like I find that you go into what you know about, and had all experienced sexual assault, rape, and a lot of them hadn't told a soul. Like this would have happened when they were 12, 13, and they were now in their 40s and 50s, hadn't told their partner, hadn't told, like they'd had children and everything, and they still blamed themselves. That's the heartbreaking thing, that I think anyone that's, for whatever weird reason, the ego makes it our fault. And so it was kind of like, as I started to work with these women and heal this, I realized that there was a lot of trauma from the womb, trauma from our trauma in our yonis, and trauma in our hearts, because when we experience heartache, it actually has a direct line to our uterus, like so our cervix. So it's when you experience trauma here, loss or grief, you actually have it in your womb too, which can impact your ovaries. And your ovaries is a source of creation. Your womb is your powerhouse. Like, it really is your powerhouse. And so if you've experienced trauma, whatever that might be, it kind of needs to be healed so you can create. And I'm not just talking about babies, I'm talking about creating a business, creating a marketing plan, creating an art project. Like, we as women are natural receivers. That's why you've got to get really good as a receiver, as a woman, and natural creators. Like, we receive sperm and we create life. Yeah. So when I talk about receiving, it's about opening up your capacity to receive love, which could be just compliments. Like, how many times do you deflect a compliment? Oh no, this old thing that I'm wearing. Like, all
so
of that
true.
All of that is part of receiving. If someone says like, oh wow, that's really amazing what you've done there, thank you. Oh, thank you for acknowledging it. Like, it's so important, as well as receiving I know we're in a pandemic, but like, you know, a hug, or like accepting a cup of coffee that someone's going to shout you. Like, as women, we've kind of, society's not taught us to be good at this, but we're naturally born to receive. And then the same with create and birth ideas, projects, kids, if that's what you choose. But it's all linked.
That's incredible. Yeah, because you mentioned the heart, we're linked here. And if we look at, I guess, sort of the yogis would look at it as your 3 power centers. You've got your, I guess, your solar plexus area. And within that, we have, you know, that area, we have our wombs, don't we? So yes, I think we kind of sometimes forget that that's where we create, not just babies. It's like you said, it's where our ideas come from. We birth new ideas and plans for ourselves. So with that connection to the heart, is that just also so opening up and receiving, as you said, kind of the compliments, and like you say, we're such in a culture where we just go, oh, this whole thing, oh no, you know, I've had it for ages, or we just don't know. And I think that's something that I've been working on in the last year or so. Just when someone, you know, like you say, shouts me a coffee, thank you. I don't need to, you know, dress it up and, you know, mumble about something else and make, you know, it's just the thank you, which is really hard, but it's so good.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's our duty, to get really good at that. If you want to create the life that you want, start getting really good at receiving. And when you receive, that's money as well. It's all of them: love, money, health, whatever it might be. When you receive, just give gratitude. It can take a second, but when you're grateful for something, it amplifies it. And that frequency of gratitude, when you're like, I'll just do it now, but if I'm grateful for something, I can feel my frequency, my vibration raising. And so I'm going to attract, law of attraction, more things to myself that are to be grateful for, because I'm vibrating on the frequency of gratitude right now. So like, if to give an example, that maybe there'll be another interview pop in to my inbox because at the moment I'm feeling grateful for this interview. So it's like, but if you're feeling grateful for the money that you've received, then that just will attract more money. Like, it's all about receiving and then being grateful.
I love that. I think what you said there about getting, in order to start getting the life you want, the things you want in life, it's just start simply with being able to receive, and that vibration. That's, you know, I think you explained that beautifully, and with gratitude. So such a vital part of that, isn't it? That gratitude that we give. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, like, it basically, that's meditation. Like, it's that being in that energy, that's what I'm talking about, is being in the energy of gratitude. When you're in meditation, it's you're being in that energy of stillness so that you can receive again the ideas, the intuition, the nudges from source or whoever into you. So then your job is to then birth it, whatever that creation that's come in through your crown chakra. But like, there's a lot of, I know that there's a lot of people out there that wrestle with meditation, or like sitting down and doing the meditation or whatever. Like, I don't have that 20 minutes. That's cool. So what I'm saying is, if you could just receive that compliment and be a bit grateful, you're already in the receptive mode, which is already in the higher frequency, which means that you'll have more clarity around whatever it is that you're wanting. You don't necessarily have to sit there for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, if people don't have 20 minutes, 5 minutes, if you could do something. But even if we're going to the shops and you're exchanging that energetic value of currency, that money, and having that gratitude there, I guess people can incorporate that also into their daily practice, couldn't they? That could be that slight meditation.
I have a whole thing. So, because like one of the areas I focus on is money. So we do money, health, success, and love. Like, because for me, it's all the same energy. Like, it doesn't matter what area it is you're coming to me with. It's all the same. So one of my favorite kind of mantras, I guess, or affirmations for money is all the money I invest in myself and my business pays for itself 10 times over or more in a never-ending cycle of joy, increase, abundance, and love.
Lovely.
I can feel like I've just opened up there, just like I'm getting all tingly, and then I switch the words up. But every time I buy something on Amazon, every time I like paying my food bill from the shop, like I just take, it's a second. You don't have to say it out loud. You can do it in your head. Like, if you don't want to look weird, I don't mind looking weird now. I don't have an issue with it. Do Facebook lives on, you know, wombs, like, and yonis. Like, I've got no shame now. But yeah, so it really works. It really works. But it's not necessarily about the words, it's about the feeling. About the feeling and the vibration and the frequency that you're on.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned that before, that feeling and vibration. So let's feel that and that in that area, I guess, don't we? Because it really kind of emanates from there, doesn't it?
Or if you can do it all over, that's even better. Like
all over.
Body orgasm. Like, you know, when you're tingling head to toe, you're not thinking about money worries or like, you know, are you good enough? You're like, oh, this is great.
A body orgasm in the shop, having bought you.
Exactly. And that
I love this.
Yoni eggs. If you practice with Yoni eggs, they're a lot of fun.
So you mentioned Yoni before, and I'm not sure if all the listeners and viewers will know what the Yoni is. So would you be able to explain?
Yes, definitely. So this is one of my things, actually. I do. So I'm talking about what some people call the vagina, but what really annoys me is our vagina is actually the passage from our vulva, which is like the outside, to our uterus. That canal is actually the vagina. And our actual, the outside bit, the lips, the labia, all of that is actually called the vulva. But I think in Eastern cultures, it's called the yoni. The vulva is called the yoni. So that's what I'm talking about here, because it kind of, there's a lot of like yoni eggs, yoni exercises. So I think it's more of a, because yoni actually means sacred space. And for me, I believe, your yoni is it's the most sacred thing ever. Because like I said, it's your powerhouse. Your womb and your yoni, they're your powerhouse. Like this is why I talk about turned on women. When a woman is turned on, like turned on to life, turned on to I don't know, her environment, where she is, she becomes unstoppable, like unstoppable. You are so empowered when you are turned on. And it doesn't have to be, it's not just about in the bedroom, it's in the boardroom as well. Like if you're on a project that turns you on because it's that good and the ideas are coming and you're knocking it out the park, you turned on there, like, and that you could just, you can feel it in your body, your whole body. And that's, yeah, so that's kind of what a yoni is. That's what it's a sacred space between your legs.
And I love that, turned on not just in the bedroom but in the boardroom.
Yeah.
So that's that's something we should definitely be thinking about when we're doesn't have to be in a sexual sense in the bedroom, but when you're on you're sort of operating on that level.
Yes.
It's you feel it, don't you? We know it when we're being like that, and things just kind of flow through you and ideas coming, and so it's a wonderful way of being.
Exactly, you're resonating on that frequency, that bliss frequency. So you're manifesting amazing when you're doing that. But also when women climax or have orgasms, we're wired differently to men. It actually shuts down the receptors for anxiety and fear. So you're actually short-circuiting those bits. So that's why I say when you're climaxing or when you're orgasming or afterwards when you're in the bliss state, you're not thinking about, oh, do I look fat? Or like, oh, I haven't put the wash on. Like, and it's just, you can be, you're just being. You're just being, and you're open to the ideas. If you say, let's take the money example. If you're worried about money and you're thinking, oh my gosh, like I don't know what I'm going to do, you contracted, you're like small and you're disempowered. Well, the ideas of how to solve that money issue, you're not going to find down in shame, guilt, feeling contracted. Those ideas are going to come when you feel expansive, open, and you're floating on, vibrating on love or above, bliss, whatever, peace. When you're in those states and you're open, that's when the ideas will drop in. And that's when you need to take action, because I'm all about action, not just meditating there and not taking action. But that's when the genius ideas will come in. Or once again, law of attraction, someone might just ring you out the blue and say, oh, hey, I was just thinking about you. Do you need to borrow some money? It's like, oh, like, because you're on that frequency, you're attracting the solutions to you. And that could be health as well. If you're not very well, you've got to try and get up there. Like, and laughter's a really great thing. Comedies, any comedies that you find, anything that makes you feel good, particularly when it's your health, come up to here and then just be in that energy, and you'll find that whatever it is will fall away. It really will.
Yeah. And I love that, be in the bliss, be in the joy, be in the love, but also you said, take action as well. So you said, you're all about the action. So what would you advise, for listeners and viewers as well, when they're, I guess, creating their business and, be on that kind of, be what were the words that you used, not just in the bedroom, but in the boardroom, taking that energy with you.
So, there's kind of a few steps that I'd recommend. So, first of all, I would start a self-pleasure ritual. So, and that can be anything you want. So whether that is, I think maybe I need to just backtrack a bit. So when I was struggling with intimacy, I wasn't able to have sex in my marriage. Like I couldn't cope with anything. I was very British. I was very shut down. And so even if someone mentioned the word pussy, I was like, oh my God, I go bright red. And it was on a YouTube video. Like it wasn't even like this person was talking to me in the same room. So we're all on different parts of this journey. So if you are where I was there and you're like, I don't even want to have a conversation about this, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Like, and that's where you're at, and that's okay. So if a self-pleasure act is running a bubble bath, go and do it. Go and do it. If it's buying a red lipstick in a shade that you think might be too daring, so you're only going to wear it around the house, that is your self-pleasure ritual for now, and you can build up. If you're further along and you're ready to embark on maybe some more, then I would introduce a self-pleasure ritual. Myself, I personally choose Yoni eggs, so they're crystal eggs, and they actually they're very, very powerful. I've done huge amounts of healing on my womb and my ovaries and my yoni with my jade. I started with a jade yoni egg because that's kind of the most gentle one. Right. And what I would do is I'd set an intention. This is the manifesting side of things. Mm-hmm. So set an intention even before if I self-pleasure, but also if I make love to my husband, then I set an intention, like, because it might be something I'm trying to manifest. Or if you've got a lot of trauma, particularly I find if you've had traumatic births as well, that can do a lot. It might be a lot of shame, a lot of guilt there. We just don't want them in you. So what I would do is I would take my egg and I would say, it is my intention that with this practice, I heal any trauma in my womb, in my ovaries, in my cervix, because I still have the coil fitted, but I did have the coil fitted and it was quite traumatic for my cervix. So any healing, and then in my yoni as well. And then I would there's videos again on YouTube, but the best way to do it is to leave, like, if it's the first time you're doing it, don't just insert it like a tampon or something. It's about like getting your yoni used to it. Like my body had to trust me again. The first few times, my body spat my yoni egg across the room. Like for the first one, it was like, no, what are you doing?
Total rejection.
Yeah, total rejection. I was like, oh. So like you've got to be patient with yourself, like, and just gently kind of almost like suck it up. It's like breathe in, yeah. And then
we're not doing this right now, just so anyone, any listeners or viewers are wondering. Just us breathing.
yeah, breathing in, and it will eventually, because it will start to suck it up, but it will just gently introduce it. Right. And then it is a lot of fun. I mean, like you can be emptying the dishwasher and like, oh. So it's about, again, receiving pleasure throughout the day. It's not just.
So you keep it in. You keep the yoni egg in throughout the day. Okay.
Yeah, like, or however long you want. Like, maybe for the first time, I'd probably only do it for an hour, but then you can do it for several hours and stuff. I forget that it's in there sometimes. Go shopping and oh yeah. I did make one mistake which I'll share with you, because you can use string, so you can get eggs that have drilled holes in. So if you're not practicing kind of using those muscles to get it to come out, to flow out, then you might want to use string, and then use something like hemp string or something natural, organic, because the whole thing about this is like the crystal eggs, they're natural, organic. Or I use called Yoni wands, so they're kind of like crystal dildos again, which help you manifest. You can use different crystals to manifest what you choose. So it would be rose quartz for your heart if you want more love. What's the one for like jade? I think it's for money. Like, so it depends what you want to manifest. I would
turquoise. Is that for throat?
Yeah, I think that is the throat. I can't remember. I haven't got my
usual crystals. I say the usual crystals for the usual things that they help us with, they're the same types of the crystals that you would want to manifest with. You would do, okay.
So, but it just looks like kind of a crystal dildo. But once again, it's natural, it's organic, and it's very, very powerful. And I would set the intention, and then it would be, what do you want to create? What do you want to manifest? So if it was money, a hot lover, like perfect health, set the intention and then let it go. The whole point of manifesting something is to release attachment. Because when we're like, I really want this, I really want this, I really want this, it's like that contracted feeling. It's not expansive, and you're not allowing it to flow to you and to receive. So just let it go, and then dedicate your sexual energy, your creative life force energy, which is the most powerful energy in the universe. It creates life. Dedicate it to your practice. And then depending on how much fun I'm having, depends on whether when I am climaxing, I imagine that energy is shooting out and going out through the top of my crown chakra into the universe to make it real, to manifest it into this lifetime. But yeah, that's kind of how I would do the manifesting.
Really stupid question, Lucy.
No.
So are we saying, so we've set the intention, we've put using the Yoni eggs, or crystals, sorry, we've inserted. Do we then expect to climax with the crystals?
Well, yeah, I do sometimes. Okay. So the Yoni eggs more kind of, you insert it, or like you practice with it and you kind of forget about it. Right. So I just allow it to, like, I can feel the energy of the crystal doing the healing, like in my womb, like I can really feel that. And there's other things that, there's just no research really on this, but there's a reason it was only kept for the Yoni egg comes from the Chinese court, the king's court, and all his, I'm not sure whether they were called courtesans, but all the women that would be part of the king's, group of women, they would all be practiced in Yoni eggs daily because of the health benefits. Like it keeps your Yoni, like the more muscles tight, it helps lubricate it as well. And then the healing benefits. So it was never known outside the palace, because when a woman is turned on and powerful and tapped into source and her own self-worth, she becomes unstoppable. And an unstoppable woman is a very scary force. Like, this is why patriarchy, religions, whatever, have shut this down. So we aren't tapped in, tuned in. We're not taught how to develop our intuition. We're not taught about Yoni eggs and developing our sexuality and our desires, That's kind of why we came here as humans. Whoever's in charge, or whatever you want to believe, wouldn't have given us a clitoris. Like, we're the only species with a clitoris, which is an organ specifically for pleasure. There's no other reason. If they hadn't wanted us to use it.
So true. And like you say, it's for a woman, a powerful woman is unstoppable, right? She is unstoppable. And it's like we've put, for a long time, women have been told to be a bit quiet and, be seen and not heard and all that. So it's time for us all to get ourselves out there, be the powerful creators we're meant to be, right?
Yes, exactly. Shine your light bright in whatever way is comfortable for you. Like, if what I'm talking about is making you feel really uncomfortable, then that's cool. Start where you're at, start where you're ready. But I think also, I work with women, but I also love men. Like, my husband's incredible. and I wouldn't be the woman I am today without his love and his support. So there's a lot of amazing men out there who want to support us women in being the best possible versions of ourselves that we can. And yeah, so it is kind of a thing to do together as well, like, because if you have got a male partner, they can help heal a lot of trauma as well. If you set the intention before you make love that you would like to heal any trauma from any man in this lifetime or previous, then that can work wonders too. My periods have become lighter. I rarely suffer with, I used to get terrible period cramps. They used to go on for ages.
Me too,
really
yeah.
Periods, yeah. Yoni egg, yeah, just completely healed all that. It's just incredible.
I mean, we mentioned womb trauma in the womb. Would that also be for people who have had a hysterectomy as well?
Yeah, like I'm not sure about the specifics of using yoni eggs or yoni wands. I imagine that it's still the same, but from working with clients who have had a hysterectomy, for me it's no different, because I see the energetic imprint of where your womb was, and the energetic imprint is still there. Like, it's still there, and we are all actually just balls of energy. This skin that you see here is an illusion. Okay, so we're actually all just atoms vibrating. That's why the vibration and frequency is so important. We're all just balls of energy vibrating around, and this solid looking is just an illusion. So your womb is still there, even if it's been taken out by a doctor. It's still energetically there. And so I have one friend that I know of, and she had a hysterectomy, and she's had to do so much healing around her womb because she was so disconnected from her womanhood. She was so disconnected from her power and her own intuition. But when she healed that, yeah, it's just beautiful. She felt so back to herself. But yeah, even if you've had a hysterectomy, the energetic imprint's still there. Still need to do the work. Yeah. Maybe even more so.
Definitely. So yeah, set your intention of what you want to manifest. Really important. And in a couple, as a couple, with your partner, do it together. And that kind of made me think about the communication. I think you mentioned communication and how important communication is for couples or partners in the bedroom.
Definitely. And to add to the manifesting thing, when two or more people come together to co-create, it's even more powerful. It's amplified. So if you do practice manifesting with your creative sexual energy with a partner, it's like amplified what you want. So maybe you're trying to manifest a house or something, set that intention. Like, I want to honor this sexual energy to manifesting our dream house, and both of you say it out loud and then have fun.
Yeah. Brilliant.
But yeah, communication, this is like, this manifesting, it does wonders for your relationship as well, because you have to communicate your desires. You have to start communicating what's good. And that's the other thing with women. We have been suppressed in terms of communicating, having a voice. And even if you want to go back to olden times, witches were persecuted, and it might just be you liked nature. You weren't necessarily a witch and you were burnt at the stake. We weren't allowed to have our own money. We weren't allowed to have our own businesses. We weren't allowed to vote until very recently. Inheritance was down the male line. Women weren't allowed their own things. And, we weren't allowed in the government. We weren't allowed in businesses. We didn't have a voice. And so now we're just starting to find our voice. Yeah. So if you, once again, it comes down to bedroom and boardroom. If you can tell your lover, what you like, what you don't like, left a bit, right a bit, up a bit, all those things. It's good. You're finding your voice. And when you know what you do like and what you don't like, you can transfer that into your life, into the boardroom as well. Like, you have the confidence to say, I don't like that idea. I don't think you should have spoken to that person that way. That's not how I want to run my department. Like, that's not how I want to run my business. I want to do it heart-led, you know? I want to listen to my intuition. It's all related. It's all related. And communication is key. Anyone that's in a long-term partnership, married, whatever, communication is vital.
Absolutely.
We always find, if it's like, been married now for 9 years, been together 10, if things are getting sticky, we're not communicating. Like, absolutely, we're making stories up as individuals. That comes back to that separation thing. When we're all actually one, we're all connected. Yeah, so it's like the ego mind trying to separate us. If you've experienced trauma, you think that you're the only one going through it, or the only one that's experienced that. That's the ego. That's a lie. There's other people who have experienced what you've gone through. And I think that was very evident with the Me Too campaign. All of a sudden you felt not alone if you had felt trauma, because other people were sharing their stories.
Yeah, how powerful. Exactly. You know, we are sharing our stories. We, you know, as soon as we speak and we communicate with our friends, our partners, whatever, you know, whoever it is, we realize that oh, hold on, I've been there too, or something, this happened to me, or something similar. And that's that whole connectivity. And that's when we start feeling that connection with each other and that oneness and that love, isn't it? And you start feeling that vibration. And when you're not feeling that, if you're thinking, oh, I'm the victim, or blaming yourself, it's a different feeling, isn't it? It's such a different feeling. So yeah, lots of communication. I think you're 100% right there.
Connect with.
And I love what you said about the leadership in the, where is it? When you're, you know, communicating in the bedroom and you're going left a bit, right a bit, no, not that. And then you do have that, it gives you that, you know, it's so empowering, isn't it? To be able to communicate that, but also then be able to speak up in the boardroom. I mean, I've been there in a situation in a boardroom where I've wanted to say something and not being able to speak up about something. But the more we, you know, as women, we can use our voice and keep, and I find actually what really helps with me is, you know, even if it's chanting, just that, you know, chanting has given me, my throat chakra, a huge lease of life, I think. And something I used to think, oh, I couldn't do that. I know, I love my Kundalini chants now. So, you know, before this interview, you know, I was doing a few of them just to kind of release it and just get, you know, my voice heard again.
That's it. That's what energy, again, it comes back to this energy and vibration. So in the West, we tend not to use our voice, and we tend not to move. We don't use movement. Whereas yogis for ages have been using their voice, because depending on the frequency when you're chanting, it breaks up trauma. And then if you just move your body, you're releasing it from your body, like, because it's all, well, I think we're going to talk about this a bit later, but I channel light language, and that is a high frequency from another realm, if you like. And the thing is, it's such a high frequency that when I speak it, it breaks up the trauma that's stuck in your body, or the energetic pockets that are stuck because of trauma. But you can do it yourself with just using your voice to break up trauma, to release stuck energy and resonate on a higher frequency.
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to talk more about the light language in a bit. It's so interesting. I just wanted to backtrack a little bit about something we talked about before around, you know, we live in an era, you know, you and I are both grown up, and a lot of our listeners probably grown up in an era where it's been quite masculine in terms of, you know, the energy, you know, very yang energy, particularly, I guess, the 80s and 90s in the professional world, in the business, in the corporate world, right? It does feel like we're kind of seeing more of the feminine energy, you know, the feminine energies such as, you know, compassion and empathy are now resonating in businesses, which is really brilliant. It's really nice to see, right? And if we think about that, so we know the feminine energy coming through in businesses, how important is it now for women, particularly in 2020, to be embracing their sexuality?
I think it's hugely important, because it comes back to this birthing, bringing in the age of Aquarius. So we've had the Piscean age for centuries now, which is all patriarchy, which is all masculine rules and structure. So everything in society was set up for man, basically, to benefit man, and women weren't really given a voice. Age of Aquarius is all about feminine, more feminine, which is about heart-centered living. It's about community. It's about communication. So these are all traits that tend to be associated with women more so. So it's about bringing your feminine traits into the business world. And I'm not saying that masculine is bad or it needs to all be gone, because that won't work. If you look at Chinese medicine, the heart is the emperor, and it rules over all the other organs, if you like. So if your heart's not functioning that well, then it will be having an impact. All your other organs can become unruly, basically, or not work as well. But also with our energy, it's the masculine leads the feminine. It's the way it's done. The yang leads the yin. And when it's the wrong way around, that's happened to me a few times. Oh, it is horrendous. You can have a lot of negative thoughts. I was very weepy, crying all the time. The only way I can really describe it is like I felt at sea. I just felt really wibbly and at sea and not myself. And then as soon as I had some acupuncture done, whoop, my yang comes back in to lead and my feminine is following. And then I feel like myself again. So I'm not talking about eradicating it. Yeah. What I'm talking about is we need to find a balance, because it was so far into the masculine way of doing things, particularly the 80s. And we've just got to bring it back, and in natural ways. So when I talk about feminism or the feminine way of doing things, I talk about cycles. Like nature, it's cyclical. We have seasons. It's the same with women. We have seasons when we're menstruating. That our menstrual cycle is a season. And so we, even as women, we go through seasons. We have the maiden, then we have the mother, then we have the crone, you know, and the moon, which impacts our cycles as well. It's about bringing these things, for me. It's about bringing nature back into something that was so rigid and structured and ordered, and not necessarily not favoring, but not necessarily encompassing everything. It doesn't have to be femininity. We can be talking about race. We can be talking about cultures, like particularly here in UK and the US, like it's about bringing everything back into balance, like nature is, you know, it has a cycle, there's balance in all of it. And that's what, for me, it's bringing it in. So even if that's just in a little way, in the business that you're in, or it's the career or the corporate world you're working in, maybe just sit and meditate. How can I bring some more feminine energy in? How can I bring some more how can I put the focus more on community, on communication, on heart-centered, rather than financial targets. How can we hit those financial targets, but with more soul and heart?
Yes, I love that. And you're absolutely right. It is that balance, really is a balance, isn't it? We can't do without the masculine, and actually masculine energy is great. You know, we need that sometimes to drive us.
Action.
Yeah, action.
Action. So like I said, manifesting, the dreaming, the visioning, that tends to be more feminine. But to make it real, which is what manifesting means, make real, in this reality, this 3D reality we're in right now, we need that masculine energy, that drive, that ambition. Not to say that feminine isn't those things, but it tends to be a bit softer. Whereas sometimes you do need that drive and action to make things happen. Like, you know, think about birthing. That M bit when you got a last push and push and push and you're tired, you don't want to do it anymore. Like that is the masculine boom, here we go, you know? And so we need the masculine as well to birth this new age of Aquarius, but we just need to make sure that the feminine is included in this time.
Yes.
And everything
Absolutely.
in between. You know?
Exactly. And I love that, you know, they've got the moon phases, there's 4 phases of the moon, there are 4 seasons, there's 4 phases of our menstrual cycle, you know, these are all linked. And it's lovely if women could incorporate this into their work routines. I know the circadian clock is very much based on the masculine 24-hour hormones, male hormone cycle. So, and yes, we can work on that. There's 4 cycles to that as well, right? Noon, evening, morning, night, or so it's, you know, there's 4 cycles to everything. But I think there's something that you said, I think it might be in another interview or a Facebook Live, was how giving ourselves sometimes permission when we've got our periods, you know, the first day of our period, do you know what? Take a nap, go meditate. How important is it for us as women, or, you know, people identifying with female energy? How important is it for us to give ourselves that permission?
Huge. Permission factors very heavily in my life. If something's not working for me, or something's not happening and I'm like, what is that? Usually comes down to permission. Right. Usually I'm seeking permission from someone else, or waiting for permission from something else, and I'm like, so that I do tend to find is like, normally you've just got to give yourself permission. So it's like, why aren't you having a nap? If, like, obviously if you're in the corporate world and you're not able to do that, I get that, but why don't you come home and have a bath? Like, why do you have to do whatever you're doing? It's normally because of routine. And also it comes back to the manifesting thing as well. If I'm waiting for, say, I'm waiting on an email from a client or something, or I'm waiting for some payment to come in, and it's not come in, and I'm getting stressed about it because I've got attachment to it, I go and take a nap, because when I'm napping, it's like hitting reset. There's no attachment. My ego's not going. I'm sleeping, I'm dreaming. And normally I'll take a nap and I'll get up and then that email's come in or that payment's come in, because I've let go of the attachment. So there's the space for it to manifest in this 3D reality, if that makes sense. Yeah. So when you are on your period, not only are your energy levels low anyway, the first day, or the first couple of days, that's also the best time to vision. It's the best time to go within and vision and kind of plant the seeds of what it is you would like to manifest. So it's the best time to take a break. So whether that's when you've finished work and it's a bubble bath, or I don't know, it could be meditating, it could be reading a book, it could be anything, but just taking that time to be, taking 20 minutes out your day to be. If you can do it longer, if you can take a nap. I found that if I resisted So if I soldiered on and I kept going, not only would it then mean for the rest of my period I was very tired and I would probably get stomach cramps as well. It just wouldn't work for me. Whereas if I gave in, if I just was like, if it fell on a Saturday, I'd have a pajama day. I'd probably, I'll admit this to you, I'll probably eat chicken super noodles. They are actually vegan. And I'd sit in bed and I'd watch Netflix and I'd say to the hubby, I'm going to quarantine myself. I just can't be bothered to deal with anyone right now. I'd get into bed. I'd get in my pajamas, I'd watch crap on Netflix and I'd eat chicken super noodles. And it was great. It was great. Like, no one expected anything of me. I didn't have to do anything. And the next day, boom, I was fine, ready to go again.
Yeah.
But it was that permission, allowing yourself, like, if you put up that resistance, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Absolutely. So true. I know since I left the corporate world, and I remember giving myself permission to, I'm just going to have a lie down. I felt so naughty. I felt like I was breaking all the rules. I thought, oh my God. But I know, like you said, as soon as I gave myself permission, I recovered from that, you know, that lack of energy so much quicker had I resisted. And again, I think going back to the East and the ancient wisdom of the East, I'll give an example of yogis. In Kundalini, I don't know if it's the type of yoga I practice, but then you've got the breath of fire. You've got to really pump the belly, you know, in, and it's, you know, you're snapping the belly back. On your period, you're advised not to, but to take long breaths, deep breaths. And that's because it's going against the cycle, the flow, energetic flow. So your flow is supposed to be going downward during your menstruation. So, you know, the ancient yogis knew all this, and we still live in the culture where must persist, must resist, keep pushing through, right? So I hope anyone who listens to this, next time you've got your period, take a little nap, do something, just take some time out and see how that really feels and see what difference that makes.
Definitely. And give yourself permission. Like, just give yourself permission. It doesn't matter in the great grand scheme of things, particularly with everything that's going on in the world right now. It really doesn't matter if you take a nap. Like, you don't even have to tell anyone if you're going to feel guilty about it. Just like, no one needs to know.
Exactly. Put a little timer on, get your PJs on, stick on some Netflix as well if you wanted to.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Just give yourself permission. I think the thing is that we've been so hard on ourselves for so long. And if you want to go back for generations and past lives, like, give yourself a break. Give yourself a break. Like, whether that's go and self-pleasure for 20 minutes, like on your lunch break, do it. Like, just, I think life is about living and having fun. And we've been so indoctrinated into it being hard and struggle and, once again, all patriarchy. Let's get turned on. Let's get in the flow. Let's get those ideas coming. Let's get on those higher frequencies and then see what magic you can create in your life from that way of doing things. Why not give that way of doing things a try, and then see what works for you? Like, because that's the other thing. Like, I'm sharing all this stuff, but you know, your yoni is as unique as your fingerprint. There's not another one in the entire universe. Yeah, that, I mean, how amazing is that in itself? Like, just so. Whatever, there's been practices that I've watched on YouTube that haven't worked for me. Like, they just haven't, because I'm wired differently, and you will be as well. So it's about finding out what works for you, and that's fun. Like,
I think that's such a great point you make there. We are all individuals, but also our yonis are individual and different. So, so that's so true. Everything, you know, that's not, some things that work for some people are not going to work for you. So give yourself permission and try it out.
Exactly.